Hey guys, welcome back to Rocket Gyan yet again. And we are today going to witness, hopefully, a CRS-26 mission from the SpaceX agency. We all know what SpaceX is, so there is no introduction needed for that. But today we are going to witness, hopefully, the CRS-26 mission. This mission is was supposed to launch a while back, but it was aborted at T minus 57 or 56 seconds because of the weather. And today also the weather is not so looking good, not looking so good. Yeah, so that there is that. And other than that, there are certain science things. So this is a commercial resupply mission to international space station. So there are since it's a resupply, so there is a good amount of science and instruments going in space. There are many CubeSats. I won't talk about those CubeSats today, but the CubeSat science and other things are going to the space, which we'll talk about. But before that, I hope you all are doing great. We just witnessed ISRO's PSLV rocket launch today, and that was amazing to see. Everything was good, and hopefully we'll get to see today's launch also. Okay, so let me just finish up with the thing which you need to know about this mission. So this is a commercial resupply mission. The flight profile is a typical Falcon 9 flight profile. Ascent, separation, stage separation, the boost, okay, so there will be a boost back burn here, not a typical one. So there will be a boost back burn, then the entry burn, and then finally the vertical landing on autonomous drone ship. So this won't be like a Starlink mission, which in which there is no need for the boost back burn. So after that, the second stage goes to the orbit, the Dragon separates, and then the Dragon rendezvous with the international space station, and then everything is autonomous after that. So this is what we have for the rocket profile. We don't have to introduce the Falcon 9 rocket itself. It has 9 Merlin engines powering it. The second stage is powered by one Merlin 1D engine, and everything is yeah, good here. So let's just quickly jump into the science which is going to space. So the first thing which you will witness is this one, which is the veggie experiments. This is the veggie hardware going to space. So this veggie hardware is kind of, a continuous source of nutrition are required in space, and this veggie is used for is kind of a plant variety which does not require a typical, what should I say, environment, proper constant environment to grow. So that you can grow these vegetables and everything in the environment in which astronauts live. So there is no as such proper caretaking or a proper development of environment is needed for the crops to grow. So this is that research which is going. So yep, this is a kind of an interesting one, because then the astronauts and the crew can focus more on the research and development part rather than taking care of their food. So yeah, it's good to see that. Okay, so the next one is, so this is kind of like an diagnosis on the fly. So if you have seen Expense, so there is this called thing called Autodoc, in which it detects, diagnose your problem if you put your hand into it, and then suggests the treatment. So it's kind of a prototype for the Autodoc. This is known as Moon microscope, which has a test. Moon microscope tests a kit for in-flight medical diagnosis that includes a portable handheld microscope and a small self-contained blood sample staining device. So an astronaut collects and stains a blood sample, obtain images with the microscope, and transmit images to the ground, where flight surgeons use them to diagnose illness and prescribe treatment. So this is a small kit which astronauts can use if they are not feeling so well. It's kind of a blood test which they can do, and the doctors on the ground can help them with that. So it's kind of a very early version of an Autodoc. It's nothing autonomous here, but still that's how the autonomous things are developed. So yeah, there is that. Now moving on to the next one. So this is interesting one because we have seen resin, yeah, liquid resin. We have seen most of you may have used in the making the structures and all those things. So the researchers are trying to have send the liquid resin to space. So the mission named or the this named is named as this thing is named as extrusion. So it demonstrates a technology using liquid resin to create shapes and forms that cannot be created on Earth because we have gravity on Earth and the resin just settles down and those shapes can't be created. So this extrusion is in the experiment is going to do that. So this is also an interesting one. Now moving on to the next one. So we have this one which is on demand nutrients. So this is a bionutrients program, bionutrients 2 program, which is just a meant for maintenance of crew health on future long duration space mission. Many vitamins, nutrients and pharmaceuticals have limited shelf life, and the ability to make such compounds on demand could be kind of very useful. So this is a kind of an a rocket in which anything which you want you can make then. So it's a very interesting, this one is also a very interesting one. So yeah, and then finally we have the solar power IROSAS, the rollout solar arrays. So there are two rollout solar arrays which will be going to space. The SpaceX delivered the previous solar panels in 2021, also the IROSAs, and the second set of IROSAs are being launched today, and they provide a 20 to 30% increase in power for space station research and operation. So this is an advanced and a more lighter version of the solar panels which is already in place right now. So yeah, the first two solar arrays which have been which was launched are performing outstandingly well. So this was no brainer to send more of these. So yeah, so the next one is this which is kind of an increasing interesting one. So we have travelers to space all face the transition from one gravity field to another. So if in future we go to moon, Mars, so there is a transition in the gravity field. So first of all, astronauts are in earth gravity, then they are in no gravity, means the 0g environment, and then finally once they are in sphere of influence of a planet or a celestial body, they are in another gravity field, right? So they have this transition switch going on. So these transitions can affect spatial orientation, head eye and hand eye coordination, balance and locomotion, and cause some crew members to experience space motion sickness. So this is kind of like that only. The one space motion sickness similar to what we have in boats, ships and all those things. So this is the Falcon goggles hardware captures high-speed video of a subject's eyes, providing precise data on ocular alignment and balance. So these goggles could better inform the researchers of the impacts of microgravity on crew members. So it actually detects the changes in the eyes, the subject eyes, so that they can have a proper look onto how the space motion sickness is affecting a crew. So yeah, this is also an interesting one. So these are all the science which is launching today. I have a video also for you guys which should summarize the thing which I just saw, which I just told you. Just a second. All right. So yeah, there is that. So I hope you got to understand all the science which is launching today and everything when everything going on board. So the next thing which we need to see is the weather. So the weather is 70% go for the launch, 30% are concerned for proper violating weather conditions, and then after 48-hour delay, two days delay, we have 20% chances of violating weather conditions. And yeah, I mean right now it's a 20% chance. Let's see, 30% chance, sorry. Let's see if it improves or how it works. So yeah, this is the weather update. Now if I think we are live, that I'll switch over to that.
Power the orbiting laboratory and tomato plant seeds for the continuous fresh food production system. These resupply missions help NASA and our partners continue research that could better our life right here on Earth and help us explore deep space. That being said, let's go now to SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, where Jesse Anderson is standing by to tell us about the...
Hey, welcome to the stream, Alvaro and Mauricio. Welcome to the stream.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Anderson. I'm a production engineering manager here at SpaceX. It's great to be covering today's mission in partnership with NASA. The rocket that you're looking at on your screen is brand new. The Falcon 9 and Dragon spacecraft will be flying for the first time on today's mission. So far this year, we've launched 4 Dragon missions: Crew 4, Crew 5, Axiom 1, and CRS-25. Today's launch marks SpaceX's 5th Dragon launch of 2022 and our final Dragon mission this year. Now, looking at the rocket on your screen, above the Falcon 9 is the Dragon spacecraft sitting at the very top. Now, as I mentioned previously, the Dragon that you're seeing on your screen will be embarking on its first flight and will be joining the Crew 5 spacecraft already docked at station. Moving down the vehicle, we have our reusable 2-stage rocket. Falcon 9 is actually 2 rockets in one. The lower part, which is also the largest part of the rocket, is called the first stage. The smaller stage above the first stage and the black inner stage is called the second stage. Not only does SpaceX's second stage look similar to the first stage, it also has the same diameter, uses the same metal in the tanks, same computers, same propellant, and nearly the same engine. This allows us to use similar tooling, design, and systems to essentially build 2 rockets that are more reliable. Now, above the first stage and black inner stage is our second stage. The stages will separate about 2.5 minutes into flight, and then the second stage will ignite its MVAC engine, which is the 10th engine on the rocket, to carry Dragon to its desired orbit. Now, moving down the rocket, the bottom of the first stage has 9 Merlin 1D engines, hence the name Falcon 9. These engines accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. And we will be attempting to recover the first stage on our drone ship named Just Read the Instructions today, and there you can see it on your screen, currently positioned off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. But for now, let's turn it back over to you, Jasmine.
Thanks so much, Jesse. In addition to SpaceX in California, NASA teams both here in Florida and Texas are monitoring today's launch as well. You'll hear from Sandra Jones inside Mission Control Houston. But first, let's check in with NASA's Megan Cruz, who's monitoring the launch team here at Kennedy. Megan?
Thank you, Jasmine, and welcome everyone into Hangar AE at nearby Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This is where the Space Force monitors things like the range for us, making sure it's safe to fly where we intend to fly, but also the weather, which, as you said, Jasmine, is looking much better today than it was on Tuesday. When we tried to launch on Tuesday, we were 30% go because of things like rain and clouds. Today, we are 80% go. Launch Weather Officer Alina Moses is currently tracking some storms to the east of us, but expects them to remain well offshore today. Now, right now, fueling of the Falcon 9 rocket is underway. It started about 20 minutes ago at T-minus 35 minutes. RP-1, or rocket-grade kerosene, is being loaded into the first stage. Liquid oxygen is also loading into the first stage and should begin on the second stage momentarily. The white clouds you see that are coming off of the rocket, that is because SpaceX is venting off some of that liquid oxygen to maintain the right pressure in the tanks, and those clouds form when the LOX makes contact with the humid Florida air. Now, we have an instantaneous launch opportunity at 2:20 and 43 seconds Eastern Time if we want to dock with the International Space Station tomorrow morning. For more on that, let's head over to Sandra Jones in Houston.
Good afternoon. I'm NASA's Sandra Jones here inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Mission Control Houston is the nerve center for space station operations, and our flight control team is on console as they are 24 hours a day and are ready to support today's cargo launch. Leading the team in mission control during today's launch and during this Orbit 2 flight.
Yes, Elzer, glad to see you here too. And we are right now T-minus 14 minutes from the launch. Everything is looking good. But let's see. Weather is 80% go for the launch, but let's see how it will pan out.
Nicole Mann and Josh Cassada, as well as JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Koichi Wakata, and 3 Russian cosmonauts, Sergei Prokopyev, Dmitry Petelin, and Anna Kikina. When Dragon arrives to the space station on Sunday, it will dock to the zenith, or space-facing port of the Harmony module, and NASA astronauts Josh Cassada and Nicole Mann will be on tap to monitor the approach and docking. Dragon will spend about 45 days attached to the International Space Station before it undocks and returns to Earth with critical research and return cargo and splashes down off the coast of Florida. But for now, everything continuing to look good on the station side for today's launch, so we'll toss it back over to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Sandra and Megan, for those updates. We are now about 13 minutes and counting from liftoff of CRS-26, so let's get a closer look at some of the science flying on this mission.
Yep, we have already seen this. So right now things are looking good with this launcher. The science I have already explained. So other than this science, there are many CubeSats also launching in the Cargo Dragon. So you might be wondering, how does the Cargo Dragon deploy CubeSats? No, that is not the case. The CubeSats are actually deployed from the International Space Station. So yes, there is a CubeSat deployer which is installed on the International Space Station, and the Cargo Dragon, or not specifically Cargo Dragon, many spacecrafts which docks with these International Space Station get those CubeSats, so that they get a kind of a free ride to space and then finally get deployed from the International Space Station. And yes, there is no as such probability of collision with the International Space Station for the CubeSats. It is deployed in such a way. So yeah, CubeSats also gets their things done, their experiments done, and the ISS also gets its research and everything. So yeah, there is that, and there are not like 2 to 3, there is like 10 to 12 CubeSats which are there. I am not going into the details of it, but yeah, just information which you should know. And other than that, yesterday the Artemis mission had an update in which it went for a lunar orbit insertion burn.
In this experiment, small tomato plant seeds are grown in 2 veggie chambers with different LED light conditions for 104 days. Then they are analyzed for how many tomatoes they grow and their nutritional composition. Station crew members will rate their flavor, texture, and juiciness. This resupply mission will also increase the power on station with 2 new roll-out solar arrays. These are also called IROSAs. After being installed on upcoming spacewalks, the arrays will roll out using stored kinetic energy, almost like a yoga mat. The IROSA is a new design that uses 1 piece of flexible material that snaps open in space. We are now at T-minus 11 minutes and counting from liftoff of the 26th Commercial Resupply Services mission from both NASA and SpaceX to the International Space Station. So let's bring back Jesse now to tell us more about today's launch and Dragon. Jesse?
Thanks, Jasmine. As we near the end of the year, today's mission marks SpaceX's 192nd overall launch and the 5th flight of Dragon to the International Space Station this year, following the launches of Crew 4, Crew 5, Axiom 1, and CRS-25. To give a bit of history, Dragon has been flying for 12 years. Dragon made its debut at the orbiting lab in 2012 as the first private spacecraft in history to visit the International Space Station. Now, since then, it's made 32 trips to and from the orbiting lab, and today Dragon is one of the few vehicles that can deliver significant cargo to the space station and the only vehicle that can deliver cargo from it. Falcon 9 and Dragon were both designed with reflight in mind, and the vehicle hardware is built to support multiple missions with minimal refurbishment. Now, to date, 16 of our missions have flown on flight-proven Dragons. While today's launch marks the first flight for this particular Dragon and Falcon 9, we do plan to recover and fly both the vehicle and spacecraft again in the future. Now, so far, we've reflown first stages 127 times, and that includes Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy flights, and are planning to recover this one on our drone ship. Just read the instructions today. Now, if successful, it will mark the 153rd recovery of an orbital-class rocket. Now, we're at T-minus 9 minutes until liftoff, with the range and weather tracking green for an on-time launch. So we'll turn it back over to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jesse. There are also several international partners contributing to the science and research on today's mission. Earlier this week, I had the honor of speaking with Carlos Moura, president of the Brazilian Space Agency, about today's launch. Let's take a look at what he had to say. There are several international partners flying as part of the CRS-26 mission. I am so glad now to be joined by Carlos Moura, president of the Brazilian Space Agency. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Jasmine. We are open to discuss a lot of good opportunities with NASA and the United States.
Right, and one of those great opportunities is the Sport CubeSat. The Brazilian Space Agency partnered with Marshall Space Flight Center to create that. Tell me more about it.
It will investigate a phenomenon that occurs in the South Atlantic around Brazil and affects communication, GPS signals. So it's important not only for Brazil, but for everybody that passes in that region.
Right, and I'm glad that you mentioned that it's not just one region, it's several regions. You know, we're not just looking at one place, but we're really helping each other out. Why is international collaboration so important?
Well, space is an open domain. We can share opportunities. We can advance in the science. We can share the risks. So that opportunity with NASA opened a new domain for us, not only with the nanosats, but with all other missions, scientific and technological missions also. We have a good future ahead.
Oh, absolutely. A very bright future. You're also helping with the Artemis missions. Can you tell me how the Brazilian Space Agency is involved in those?
We're involved in a lot of nanosatellites. Some of them are academic. We will have in February the first private satellite in Brazil. It's also a nanosat. We are opening in December the Alcântara spaceport for private operations. So the new space is booming in Brazil.
Absolutely. It very much is booming in Brazil. Any thanks that you want to give to your teammates that have worked on these things?
Well, we did that first satellite with NASA. We open opportunities for science, for technology, for business, and we hope we can do a lot of good things concerning space around the Earth and also in the Artemis. We have a mission already planning and advancing for the Artemis program.
That is fantastic. A lot of great things happening in Brazil right now. Carlos, thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure. Go to space.
Absolutely. Go to space. All right. Now we are just about 6 minutes into liftoff of CRS-26. So let's bring back Megan here on Florida's Space Coast and Jesse live at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, to walk us through the final moments of countdown and liftoff. Take it away.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. It's T-minus 6 minutes and 20 seconds, and the SpaceX team was working no significant issues. Weather is 80% go for T0, and the range is ready to support. Now, as far as the vehicle, at this point, RP1 fuel is completely loaded on the second stage and nearly complete on first stage. Liquid oxygen loading is underway on both stages and will complete at T-minus 2 minutes to launch. Now, we're also loading helium gas into both stages. Falcon 9 uses helium as a pressurant to backfill the propellant tanks as liquid oxygen and RP1 are consumed by the Merlin engines during ascent. Helium load began before the broadcast went live and will continue to top off until a minute and a half before launch.
And to make sure engine startup goes well, SpaceX also performs what it calls engine chill. This happened at T-minus 7 minutes, where we flowed a small amount of the super chilled LOX into the Merlin engine's turbopumps. SpaceX does this to avoid a thermal shock to the system when that full flow of super chilled liquid oxygen hits the prop system. Dragon also began its startup sequence at T-minus 35 minutes when it coordinated timing with Falcon 9. It's currently undergoing vehicle health checks, with the next big step just before liftoff, when Dragon transitions to internal battery power.
Dragon is in
Coming
terminal
up
count and
next.
is on internal power.
So we are T-minus 5 minutes from the launch. Everything is looking good. Yep, there you go. It's going to space, guys. The International Space Station is coming in.
We'll begin to retract away from the rocket in preparation for liftoff. In order to do so, there are clamp arms just below the Dragon vehicle that will begin to open. Once those are fully open, and there you can see them on your screen just below Dragon. Once those are fully open, then the TE can begin to retract away from the vehicle. Now, in these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final health checks on its primary communications, avionics, and propulsion systems in preparation for flight. And we may hear some callouts that engines are sufficiently chilled as we get a little closer to liftoff. There you can see at the bottom of the Dragon vehicle, the clamp arms are beginning to open up. Again, once those are fully open, the TE can begin to retract away from the vehicle.
Rehan says no abort system.
As
Yeah,
Jesse said,
there is
the
no
next
abort
visual cue
system
we're gonna
because
see
this
is
is
that
not
strong
carrying any
back
humans to
beginning
space.
decline.
This is just a cargo mission going to the International Space Station, so that's the reason why we don't need an abort system here. So yeah, there you go.
Now the next call out we'll hear is stage 1 LOX load complete. That'll happen around T-minus 30 seconds.
T-minus 3 minutes,
T-minus 2
18,
minutes and 30 seconds.
18 seconds remaining.
As we wait for that, this is the last Dragon launch of this year, bringing about 7,700 pounds of cargo, science, and supplies to the space station. Of the 7,700 pounds of cargo going up
Stage
today,
1, LOX load, closed out.
there's that call out we were expecting.
Stage 1, POGO.
Our life support and medical equipment, also gym hardware and solar arrays. Dragon will be docked to the space station a little longer than usual, 45 days versus about 30, and that's to allow time to install those new solar arrays. Now, coming up in about 10 seconds, checkouts of the second stage thrust vector control actuators will be underway. This is often referred to as an engine wiggle test. It's when SpaceX moves the thrust nozzles slightly to make sure that the guidance hardware is go for flight. SpaceX does the exact same checkouts on the first stage engines, and that happens just seconds before ignition.
Now, coming up next, at the T-minus 2 minute mark, liquid oxygen loading should be completing on the second stage, and that will wrap up propellant loading for Falcon 9. Dragon is also performing its final health checks to make sure that all of its primary systems are ready for its rendezvous to the space station. Now, again, those white clouds that you see around the vehicle is the chilled gas above the liquid oxygen
Stage 2,
tank
LOX load
liquid
complete.
surface. And there's that call out that stage 2 liquid oxygen
Dragon
loading
is in
is
auto
now
idle.
complete. And again, those white clouds that you see around the vehicle is the chilled gas above the liquid oxygen tank liquid surface that we vent overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. When that gas comes into
Gas launch
contact
closing.
with the warmer air, it condenses into white clouds.
In about 24 seconds, Dragon transitions to internal power. Falcon 9 computers will enter startup mode, which is when the Falcon 9 flight computers will take control of the countdown, guiding the rocket through
T-minus
the last
1 minute, 10 seconds
before
remaining.
liftoff.
And it's happening, guys.
And
so
at that moment, we will hear a call out.
get
saying
ready for
Falcon
the
9
launch.
is in startup. And Dragon
T-minus
is in countdown. So let's
60
wait for
seconds
that.
remaining.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in countdown.
And previously
All
here
right, so
only the
both
abort
stages are now
happened,
pressurized.
but right now things are looking good. We are going in for the launch.
Launch Director Mike Taylor verifying go for launch.
Yeah, if we can get
Go
a-
for launch.
Yeah, there you go. The mission director has given a
Remains go for
Launch. Go for the launch. Everything is looking good.
Both the booster and Dragon spacecraft.
All right, this
T
is
minus
happening.
30 seconds.
T-minus 30
At
seconds.
launch, the International Space Station will be 260 miles in altitude, flying south of Nuremberg, Germany.
T-minus 20, 19, 18,
Stage 1,
17,
pressing for flight.
16,
15 seconds.
15,
All right, here we
14,
go.
13, 12, 11,
Minus 10.
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
ignition.
Full power and
And
liftoff of
liftoff.
CRS-26. Go Falcon and happy
Whoa,
Thanksgiving
just
ISS.
does not get old.
That's right, liftoff of SpaceX's Falcon 9
Look
rocket
at
for the
that.
26th cargo resupply mission, bringing new science experiments and solar arrays to the International Space Station.
Just look at that beauty. The roll program is working right now, just to make sure the aerodynamics are in place. Everything is looking good. Wow, Falcon 9 itself is a very cool looking rocket. And
There
a
you can see
capable one.
Falcon 9 carrying CRS-26 on its way to
Powered
the
one,
International Space Station. We are throttling down the engines on the first stage. This helps us prepare for max Q, which is maximum dynamic pressure. It's the largest structural load that the vehicle sees on ascent. And we should be passing through that period. Should be passing through that period in a few seconds here.
Next cube.
And there's that call out that we passed through max Q.
Max Q.
Great views there of Falcon 9. carrying
Now
us
just
to
look at that earth behind and the plume expanding. This looks amazing, always.
or main engine cutoff as the first event. That's where all 9 of the M1D engines shut down on that first stage, all 9 of those engines that you see lit up on your screen there. And that's in preparation for the next event, which is stage separation. That's where the first and second stage separate. The first stage will flip around and make its way back down to Earth and land on our drone ship named Just Read the Instructions, while the second stage ignites its Merlin MVAC engine to boost Dragon to low Earth orbit during SES-1, or second stage engine start 1. And the last event is the boost back burn to
Stage
reduce the
2
velocity
engine chill
of the first stage in preparation for atmospheric re-entry. And that whole sequence takes about 30 seconds, and we are coming up on those few events happening here in a few seconds.
Now the next event is the Miko and the stage sep. Miko done.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage separation confirmed. And we have ignition
Stage
of
1
the second
boost back
stage.
startup. Stage 2 ignition.
And we can see the first stage also. It will perform a boost back
Some
burn
really
right now.
cool views there.
There
We
you go.
had
You can see
Miko,
that.
stage separation, the MVAC engine lighting up on your right-hand screen. We also saw the first stage kind of in the view of the second stage view there, falling back to Earth, doing a flip, and now in its boost back burn. That burn lasts about 30 seconds long.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
And there's that call out, and the boost back burn has shut down on the first stage. That is the left-hand screen. That's a view of the first stage there. On your right-hand screen, a view from the second stage looking at our MVAC engine. And you can see on your screen, on your left-hand screen, the grid fins are deploying on that first stage.
So this talking about this boost back burn. So
Very cool views.
if you have played
You're watching
KSP,
a live
you have
webcast
seen
for the
that what actually
26th
happens is
Commercial
there is a
Resupply
trajectory
Mission
in
to
the
the
opposite
International
direction,
Space
right?
Station for
Let's
NASA.
say it's going to
This is
the
SpaceX's
western
54th
coast,
mission
western
for
direction. So the
2022,
trajectory, the
fifth journey
parabola is
flight
in that direction. For
to
the
the
boost back
International
burn, what
Space
it does
Station
is it just
this year.
flips
lifted
and
off
performs
just
a
about
burn in
4 minutes
opposite
ago from
direction,
Kennedy
which
Space
causes
Center
the
at Launch
parabola
Complex
to
39K.
kind of become opposite, right? it shifts from let's say left to right, and it shifts to right to left, from left to right to right to left. All right. So because of that, the trajectory changes, and then that is the reason why it is able to land on the landing zone 1, or basically return to the launch pad. So yeah, this is how it works. Cancels all the horizontal, basically in same layman language, cancels all the horizontal velocity in the positive x direction, if you are considering that as a positive x, and then gains velocity in negative x direction, and then come back to land on the landing zone pad.
As it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. Now, the second burn is the final burn for the first stage. It is called the landing burn, and this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to touch down on the drone ship. And you may see some bursts of gas on your left-hand screen. That is nitrogen gas burst for attitude control. And then again, you could see the grid fins. You could see 2 of the 4 grid fins on the first stage. These are hypersonic grid fins positioned near the top of the first stage. So once it's in the atmosphere, stage 1 only uses the grid fins to steer as it makes its way back down to Earth. Now they orient the rocket. They orient the rocket during re-entry and guide the rocket
Stage 1 entry
during
burn
descent.
startup.
Okay, so entry burn has started. There you go. Right now, the burn shutdown will happen. So there is a delay actually in the video feed and not in the call out. So yeah, there is that.
And there you can see those engines shut down.
Now the interesting part comes into existence.
Again, next up will be the landing burn for that first stage vehicle in just about 30 seconds or so. Stage 2 is still looking good on your right-hand screen. Again, a view from the Falcon 9 second stage looking at the MVAC engine. About 20 seconds away from that landing burn
Stage 1
beginning
transonic.
on the first stage. Again, this is a single engine, the Center E9 engine burn to help slow the vehicle down
Max,
just enough to touch
mark
down on the
effects.
drone ship.
Stage 1 landing
Just
burn.
read the instructions.
The signal has not gone right now. Entry burn has the landing burn has started.
That the landing burn has begun on the first
Oh,
stage.
look at
Let's watch
look at
as Falcon 9 touches down on just read the
just look at that. And from the clouds, will it be a bullseye? Okay, it's happening.
Landing leg deployed.
Landing legs deployed, but right now it's landing on a drone ship. Oh, okay. How can I doubt it? How can I doubt it, huh? It's always a bullseye. Always a bullseye. Whoa.
Really awesome
Stage 1
views
landing
there. Falcon 9 has touched down, as you can see it standing tall on just read the instructions there on your screen. Now, while this Falcon 9 just completed its first flight, it marks the 153rd successful
Back early
landing
now.
for an orbital class rocket. Now, next up, we do have SECO 1 on the second stage. That's where the Merlin vacuum
H2
engine will
okay.
shut down. And SECO 1 or second stage
Yes,
engine
yes,
cutoff.
it always looks like that because of the perspective, but or maybe it's perspective or just Falcon 9 doing its job at the very last moment. So not so sure about that.
Incredible view there with the Earth in the background.
SECO.
And we have the SECO one, which you just saw.
And there we heard the call out for SECO and watch as that NVAC engine
Nominal
shut
orbit
down.
insertion.
And finally, that's what we want
And
to
great
hear.
call out there. That means we have confirmation of a good orbit for the second stage, still carrying the Dragon vehicle. Now we are T plus 9 minutes into the mission. Coming up on the last major task for Stage 2, commanding separation of Dragon a couple minutes from now. Now we expect to have live video of Dragon separation from the top of the Falcon 9 second stage, which looks into the trunk of the Dragon vehicle. CRS-26 will be joining the Crew 5 vehicle currently on orbit, so we'll be back to having 2 Dragon spacecraft docked
Yeah, it does not make us sweat, but just at that very last moment, Elsa, it always feels like it's going to miss, but don't know what happens if it's the perspective or just the Falcon 9 making the last second correction maneuvers. It always hits the bullseye. That's the main thing. Here you can see the views of the inside the cargo container. The rollout solar arrays are there, unpressurized one.
Under a couple minutes away. We should be able to get a live view of that. Some fun facts about Dragon. Dragon has 16 Draco engines, which have about 90 pounds of thrust each. But there are no Super Dracos on this vehicle, no seats, no life support systems, and that saves weight and space for faster refurbishment time, because this is a Dragon cargo vehicle versus a crew vehicle. Dragon also has fixed solar arrays on the trunk. The dark side is covered in solar arrays, and the light side is a radiator to cool the spacecraft. The Dragon can autonomously dock using its navigation sensors and centerline camera. And we are just about a minute away from Dragon separation. Again, if you're just now joining us, you are watching a live webcast for the CRS-26 mission for NASA. This is the 26th commercial resupply mission to the International Space Station for NASA. This is SpaceX's 54th mission this year and 5th Dragon flight to station for 2022. And we lifted off just under 12 minutes ago from Kennedy Space Center at Launch Complex 39A. And we are just a few seconds away from Dragon separation from Falcon 9's second stage. You are looking at a live view into the trunk of the Dragon vehicle.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And we have the separation done. You can see the rollout solar arrays in the unpressurized cargo bay.
And as you can see,
wow.
As you can see there on your screen and hearing those callouts as well, Dragon is drifting away from Falcon 9's second stage.
It just looks amazing.
View there. The next milestone coming up is the nose cone opening sequence. This protects the docking ring and navigation sensors. And that's going to do it for me here in Hawthorne. So I'm going to send it over to Sandra in Houston. How's it going over there, Sandra?
Oh, just look at the
thanks,
thrusters.
Jesse. Beautiful launch, as always. Great to see that. And, of course, welcome back into the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Texas. We are standing by for confirmation of that nose cone deploy. That's the next major milestone that we are tracking today. Now, the nose cone does cover the docking hardware, which will be critical tomorrow during docking operations, but also navigation and rendezvous sensors, as well as the 4 forward bulkhead Dracos. Once open, the nose cone will stay open until the end of the mission, but will be reopened just after the deorbit burn and prior to re-entry. As we look ahead to nose cone opening, it is a process that involves opening the hard capture hooks with 6 non-nose cone hooks opening and then 6 nose cone hooks opening. And I did hear that that process has now begun. Again, we are in the process of the nose cone beginning to open. These are the same 12 hooks that will hold Dragon in place after it docks with the International Space Station tomorrow. And following the hook opening, the nose cone is deployed with motors.
Always a good view and in space, right? Always a good view. So we are T plus 14 minutes, and this is, you can see, what is this? Second stage? Not so sure. Does not look like that. Still waiting for the nose cone deployment or what? Okay.
So we are continuing to stand by for the nose cone to open. This process can take a few minutes as all of those hooks do have to open. Once the nose cone is open, the team will have a process where each of the 4 forward bulkhead thrusters perform short impulse firings to check them out and make sure everything is performing as expected. Second set of hooks now opening.
Hey Shashank, I've seen. Welcome to the stream after a long time. How's everything going on, dude? Still waiting in for the nose cone deployment. It does not take this much of time, but sometimes it's space craft, right? Sometimes it can take this much of a time, but we'll have to wait and see. So if the nose cone...
Additional steps will also take place once the nose cone is open, and that includes the spacecraft thermal control system, which will automatically be configured after the nose cone deploy sequence has started.
Yep. So if the nose cone deployment does not happen, then the orbit boosting maneuver...
The SpaceX team will also configure the systems on the trunk for operations.
Yeah,
and this includes performing a health check on the solar arrays, which are wrapped around 1/2 of the trunk.
Yeah, so I was saying that the nose cone does not deploy, then it cannot expose the forward thrusters, forward Draco thrusters, and then it won't be able to boost or do the orbit changing maneuvers. Then it won't be a good day for Dragon. Let's hope it just open up the nose cone. अभी ड्रैगन ने कोई बर्न ही नहीं किया है.
Final group of tasks after Dragon is on orbit, which of course it now is. We are standing by for that nose cone deployment, and opening is to check out the guidance, navigation, and control system.
Oh yeah, those are attitude control thrusters.
The rendezvous plan and taking into account the initial orbital parameters, as well as looking at the targeted rendezvous burns that will be needed as Dragon approaches the International Space Station.
So after the nose cone is deployed, then only it will do the trajectory correction burn or orbit raising maneuver. Right now, whatever you did was the RCS or the attitude control system, in which those thrusters ensure that the Dragon is always in a specific orientation in space.
Confirmation of a good nose cone deployment.
Yep, there is a good nose cone deployment. So I think that should wrap up this stream, guys. I hope you had... Okay, there you go. We can see those views, I guess, of the nose cone deployment. Let's see. What is this? Nose cone, yep.
And we are beginning to get a view as the nose cone does open. Prior to this, each of the 6 hooks opened up, and now we are continuing to get these views as the nose cone opens.
This slow process.
Once open, the nose cone, the Dragon The Dragon docking hardware will be exposed. And the nose cone will remain open throughout the remainder of the flight.
So this is a camera on the nose cone itself. If I'm not wrong.
Continuing to get views of the nose cone opening.
Whoa, look at that. Is that the second stage? I guess so. And no. What is that? I don't think it's a second stage. Sun? No, it's a moon. No. We'll have to wait and see. Hey Vivek Kumar, welcome to the stream. Okay. Thanks, friend. Great. This is the views of the nose cone. So what did we just witness here? But I think the nose cone is deployed fully right now.
And we are standing by to hear a good nose cone opening.
Yeah. Yes, dude, I remember one of those few subscribers, early subscribers here. Shank, I hope in an IT everything is going good.
And nose cone deploy complete. Everything looking great on Dragon so far. And with Dragon's nose cone now open successfully, I do have a special guest who is dialing in today to discuss today's launch.
So, guys, I think that should wrap it up. And we had a good liftoff. Everything went as per the plan, although previously it was not able to lift off because of the weather constraint. Today it got a beautiful weather and the liftoff was amazing. And everything went as per the plan. So now we'll meet up again for the Shenzhou 15 launch, hopefully on Tuesday. And until then, this is Priyanshu Rohila. You just saw Rocket Gyan. Stay safe, stay healthy, and bye-bye.